Hello, everybody. All right, hey, thanks. So I am Fraser. As you can tell, I'm from America, so bear with me here on my accent. So just, I think, as Steve so eloquently said, I think we're here for RDK today, but I thought just to give you a little kind of opinion or a little kind of look through our lens as we think about it at Comcast. So I'm talking about it up here as our implementation, but at the same time, I'm talking on behalf of a wider community of people that have, as Steve said, contributed a load of code to the project. So a lot of people say, like, why RDK? Like, why at Comcast did you start this thing with other people when there was other available things out there? I think fundamentally at the time, other solutions out there that will remain nameless, right, were large middleware things that sat on your box and meant that your velocity, i.e. the speed that you could either fix things or get features to customers were massively reduced. So in previous lives, you know, if you got 3 software releases out in a year, you'd feeling really happy about it, right? And you'd be able to manage to get a few features in there. But because you only did 3 software releases a year, what would happen is everybody wants to get all the stuff in those 3 releases, right? And the problem with that is there's more stuff that's in there, and the more native code you have, and the more stuff that's on the box, the slower it is for you to get it out because your test cycles are longer and such, right? So what we have now, certainly at Comcast, we have a kind of a miss the boat policy, right? So we do a release to multiple millions of devices every 2 weeks, right? And if you miss the release for that 2 weeks, it's okay because the next release isn't very far away. So from a cultural perspective, we try and reduce a lot of that kind of, I want my stuff in that release. And that's what, you know, building your own software stack or contributing a load of stuff to the community allows you to do that, right? Allows you to work at the velocity that you want. And also at the quality that you're looking for. And that can be across multiple hardware models, multiple SoCs, whatever it might be. So the other big part of it was on the hardware side. I think this is the kind of stuff that we're doing these days. I think it's kind of the antithesis of what I think people assume definitely in the UK of what cable is, and definitely in Europe. I think if you look around, I think there's the idea of a box that's about the same size as a small piano, and it kind of sits next to your TV and kind of just like makes this weird humming noise, and it's really, really hot. Well, a big part of doing RDK for us was how do we not only apply really efficient product methodology to the code and what we release and how we release it, but also how do we then take advantage of that? Because if you believe that product equals hardware plus software plus experience, then you need to be in your fingers in each one of those pies to get the best result. So whether it be like an IP box like this, it's fully Wi-Fi and 4K, and you name it on the HDR side, pick your poison, right? Or on the audio side and full Bluetooth and stuff. A lot of that can be done at a much higher rate. We got, for this example, we got the boards back from the factory, and 14 days later, you've got a build that can be tested against a whole home solution that we have with X1. So that's the kind of thing that you can bring to the party with that. The other thing I wanted to talk about, I've done this presentation before. I'll get gradually more technical from here, so I apologize. It's after lunch, right? So I'm assuming everybody's kind of in that haze of kind of carbs, but I'll keep it light. But the other thing that we found as well, and when we started to do, originally our main focus was in RDK video, right? That was where the problem was. We wanted to solve, right? Ourselves and all the other people, whether it be DirecTV or Verizon or all the other competitors, the main thing that we all had was all in common, right? Same number of HD channels, right? Which is you can compete on that. Then all that's left is compete on price. So one day I've got more HD channels, it's cheaper. The next day the competitor's doing the same thing. So when you only have those things, it's a bit of a nightmare because you can only compete on, like, you know, speed and cost or number of channels and cost. So the big thing that we did was we worked with RDK to then compete in the UI. Right, how do we compete in experience and take it from there? So the main focus for us was all in video, right? But as we've started to grow as a company, and everybody here knows the same thing, like in the overall Maslow's hierarchy of needs, at the very, very bottom, underwater or whatever, is Wi-Fi, right? And that's where everybody is moving to. So as a major broadband provider and ISP in the States, and now a syndication provider for basically all of Canada, right? From our side, we know how important that broadband side is, and broadband to almost everybody, including my dad, who's our main demographic, right? Is that broadband and Wi-Fi or HSD and Wi-Fi are basically the same thing, right? So how do we double down on that? So it's an interesting problem, right? Because you focus on a video stack and then you think, okay, let's do this broadband thing, RDKB, which is really, really cool. But then before you know it, you might end up like Microsoft, right? Where you're like a company that just does middleware, and before you know it, you're making Windows ME, and everybody knows how that went, right? So we actually took a step back as a company and a community and said, okay, how can we provide differentiation for us and differentiation for the community in one go? So how do we want to look at this not as single stacks that go down from a vertical perspective, but how do we find commonalities across everything, right? And how do we create like a real platform that we can build things on? So that's kind of what you see here. I'm not going to go through it like line by line. You'll be glad to hear. But fundamentally, like we think of tools and infrastructure, our Linux distribution and our device management as layers that go horizontally through every single stack that we have. So whether it be measuring stuff, whether it be deploying stuff, debugging code that comes back that has problems, not to say any software guys ever write bad code. They always write perfect code. And anything they find, and it's always a feature, right? And then from device management, XConf is how we provide software out to people, or login is all the information we get back from devices, and then provisioning on board, and all those things go across horizontally across everything. And then how we think of our different stacks or different are as profiles. So we have RDK profiles that sit on top. So whether you have video, right, and then you have things that are specific to video in there. So whether it be like decoding stuff, whether it be browser work for apps, or whether it be DRM, those things are specific to video. If you look at broadband, you have your router, your cable modem, which is a DOCSIS thing, or EMTA, which provides the voice. We also have a full PON, so a fiber to the home stack that's all deployed for a few 100,000 people at Comcast now. And we're also getting some ADSL or DSL code that's going to be contributed. So they'd be specific things that would be for the broadband profile. Camera, and we have a camera stack. So things that are specific there, like AV capture and video analytics that we do a lot of. And then we have this idea of this, we have a profile called RDKX, which is for voice capture and things like that. If you're looking to do things differently in a remote, maybe you've got an ambient device that you want to listen, do far field voice and such. But the whole point of these things on top, they're just profiles at this stage. And they take benefit from everything below, right? So if you make an update to the Wi-Fi abstraction layer on your broadband, guess what? The video devices and the camera devices all get that goodness. If you make a change to some of the data and analytics in the base layers, then guess what? Every single device that you're deploying or every product that you have gets the advantages from that data, right? And the more we think about it at that, the more we're trying to think of this is not like RDK video, RDK broadband, RDK camera, but more as like RDK home, right? Because if you take video and you look at all the infrastructure and positivity you get from those layers, it's much easier for you to bring in a broadband product, a camera product, or another product that can take advantage of those things and use all your tools and infrastructures and operational processes, right, to be able to push those devices faster or products faster as you go. So seeing as this is connected TV, I thought I'd just talk a little bit about video. I think the other thing which has been said before, and that would be a completely fine thing to say, isn't RDK video, isn't it just like some cable thing, man, for like cable people? I think that might have been true at the very beginning, right? But I think as we look at our challenges, I think they're the same as everyone, right? And if you look at all the installs we're doing at Comcast these days, the vast majority are like IP only, as in predominantly like an IP thing that we're rolling that out. And as we get towards the end of the year, we'll be probably only exclusively doing IP installs. So the transport of the video is all IP, much and over the kind of the more traditional QAM model and cable. So as we move and have the same things as you, I think the requests that come in from myself and the product team are the same as anyone else's. Like, this is all awesome, and I love our channels, and I love all of our VOD content, and that's legit. But like, what about Netflix and what about YouTube, right? And so we go, okay, well, look at that. And the more you look at it, the more we found that the architecture in general allowed you to bring those things on board, but not really in the same expedient way that we have all of our own features that get out the door. So we've done 3 big things, and this is now shipping. I think it's and Steve's here. It's with the RDKM, the management group, so you can get access to this source. We've done 3 big things in the last kind of few months. One is we've developed the thing all in green, really. So one of the things we've done big is a thing we call R&E, which is our RDK native environment. So if you want to, for example, bring on Netflix that we have done at Comcast, you can provide them a full-blown SDK. So you provide them an SDK with documentation and sample apps. And in our case, we provide them also devices and hardware. So the people that know their code best, i.e. Netflix, can then use that SDK to develop the native app and native player for our platform, and it plugs in, and then we can then focus on what's important to us, which is how do we want to integrate that to the experience, right? Some people like having an app on there that go Netflix and you're only in Netflix. At Comcast, what we've done is with the next one, if I search for Blacklist or House of Cards, all of that's integrated through our voice search, and you can pivot from either what's in the Comcast catalog or the Netflix catalog, then you can open up the app and there you go, right? So an RDK native environment is a big deal, because if we want another OTT app, or say, for example, somebody in the audience wants a Hulu or an Amazon or somebody else, it's a part of that big set of content, you provide them SDK, and then those people, right, who know their code best can create the best experience, which is the most stable experience for your platform. So that's a big win for us in the last sort of good few months. The second one is on the HTML side. So there are other apps which you can call the long tail or whatever they might be, Crunchyroll and other things like that do have valuable content that's good for your platform and adds value to your customers. For those guys that want to run HTML, we've completely upgraded the web browser and RDK. We're using a thing called WPE. Again, massive contributions from the community. You can see a bunch of upstairs with the metrological demo. They're one of the many people that provided code for that. And what that means is if you've got an app you want to bring in HTML, you can do that too, right? So if you want to bring in like a car trading app or like some video app or whatever it might be, if they have an HTML5 version, they can bring that to the platform and you can port that over. Last but not least, a lot of people, sometimes unbeknownst to me, still love a bit of JavaScript, right? And the reason being is like most of the people in this room or the developers that you work with all have great JavaScript knowledge. So what we've done is we've reduced all of the JavaScript stack that we once had in RDK. We've made our own JavaScript stack that's called Spark. And the reason we've done that is we've got rid of the code that nobody cares about anymore, right? So fundamentally, as a developer or as somebody in the audience, if you want to write an app or something like that, you can now get that written in JavaScript and it has the same performance as it would do a native app, right? So we get rid of all the fluff and guff that you don't need anymore. And we provide like a direct layer to the graphics capabilities within the stack and the graphics capability within the device, right? So the main takeaway I want to get away from this diagram behind me, and it's available on the RDKM website, is fundamentally, absolutely, I think you could have said a while ago, this is fundamentally a cable-focused thing. But if you are someone who wants to launch an IP device, right, Wi-Fi based or not, right, there's a stack there for you, right, and you can bring that all open sourced. It's got the ability for you to launch native apps, HTML5 apps, and also launch or run your JavaScript guide that you have today. And it's all available there for you on Broadcom and Intel platforms, which is the majority of what a lot of people are doing. So I think I'm out of time, actually. Have I got 2 minutes left?
We want to use it.
Oh yeah, we should do that. I've never been early for a speech in my entire life, so I'm quite surprised. I think your watch is broken. Right, so thanks very much.
Great, thank you very much. I appreciate it.